लो जी, लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग भी शुरू कर दी है। गॉट इट। एक मिनट, रिकॉर्डिंग भी कर दूंगा। थैंक यू वेरी मच। मैं अश्विनी जिंदल ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ सीए एसोसिएशन वॉइस ऑफ सीए वेलकम यू ऑल on this webinar, although it is after a span of about 1 month, I think 15-20 दिन महीना हो गया हमें किए हुए प्रोग्राम, बट हमने अब लगातार कंटिन्यूअसली 3 प्रोग्राम हमने अनाउंस किए हैं। एक टुडे, क्योंकि आज हमने रिक्वेस्ट की कुंतल भाई शाह को, जैसे मोदी जी को आजकल पकड़ना मुश्किल है, इनको भी पकड़ना बड़ा मुश्किल है। इनको उनको मतलब 120 मुल्कों की पुलिस ढूंढ रही है, इनको पूरी जितनी भी हमारी स्टेटों की ब्रांचेस ढूंढ रही हैं कि इनके पास टाइम नहीं है बैंक ऑडिट के लिए। बड़ी मुश्किल से इनसे हमने वेबिनार का टाइम रिक्वेस्ट करके कुंतल भाई से लिया है। तो कुंतल भाई एक्सपर्ट हैं सीबीएस में, कि सीबीएस की कमांड्स कैसे यूज करनी है आपने LFAR के पर्पस के लिए, एडवांसेस के पर्पस के लिए, कि बैंक ऑडिट को इफेक्टिवली कैसे करना है इन सीबीएस एनवायरनमेंट। तो दूसरा प्रोग्राम हमने जो रखा है वो अमरजीत चोपड़ा जी के साथ रखा, सॉरी अमरजीत चोपड़ा जी के पास टाइम नहीं था, तो इस वजह से हमने वासुदेवा जी और MM खन्ना जी और एक उनके पार्टनर है अनुज ढींगरा जी, जो बैंक ऑडिट को इफेक्टिवली वो इंप्लीमेंट करते हैं, तो उनके साथ भी हमने 31 को उनका मेन पार्ट होगा। जितने भी सर्कुलर आरबीआई के आए हैं रिलेटेड टू एडवांसेस और LFAR, वो पार्ट वो कवर करेंगे। इसके अलावा आज तक हम गुरुजी का आशीर्वाद गिरीश जी का लेते आए हैं ऑन द फर्स्ट डे ऑफ द स्टार्टिंग ऑफ ईयर, जिसे हम कैलेंडर ईयर कहते हैं, इंग्लिश ईयर। लेकिन इस बार हम गुरुजी का आशीर्वाद दोबारा लेंगे कि हाउ टू स्टार्ट द फाइनेंशियल ईयर। 1 अप्रैल को मैंने डॉक्टर गिरीश उज्जा जी के ब्लेसिंग्स प्लस एक प्रोग्राम रखा है, जो हमारा अभी बजट पास हुआ है विद अमेंडमेंट्स, उसमें कुछ अमेंडमेंट्स भी हुई हैं बजट के रिलेटेड। अब वो फाइनेंस एक्ट बन गया, तो उसके रिगार्डिंग डॉक्टर गिरीश उज्जा जी को हमने रिक्वेस्ट की है 1 तारीख को हम उनका प्रोग्राम कर रहे हैं, ताकि फाइनेंशियल ईयर में क्या क्या चीजें इंप्लीमेंटेड हो गई है नहीं, उसको कैसे इंप्लीमेंट करें, और पूरा रिव्यू जो चीजें बजट में थी वो इंप्लीमेंट होगी, उसके रिगार्डिंग हमने 1 अप्रैल को डॉक्टर गिरीश उज्जा जी का प्रोग्राम रखा है। तो अभी संजय जी भी हमारे साथ शायद ज्वाइन करेंगे, वो इंस्टीट्यूट में थे, क्योंकि अब इलेक्शन मोड में मैंने उनको कहा आ जाओ भैया, 2 साल रह गए हैं, 2 साल भी नहीं रहे, कम ही रह गए हैं, शायद वो आ ही जाएं क्योंकि इलेक्शन नजदीक आ रहे हैं। तो सबसे पहले मैं स्वागत करता हूं आज के हमारी जो फैकल्टी हैं कुंतल पी शाह जी का, और हमारे जुगेश बांका जी जो हमारे साथ स्पेशली भुवनेश्वर से उड़ीसा से जुड़े हैं, अमित गुप्ता जी और गौरव गुप्ता जी जो हमारे साथ एज ए फाउंडर को फाउंडर अटैच्ड हैं सिंस बिगिनिंग, और रमन सेठ जी जो पैनलिस्ट में हैं। इसके अलावा अभी हमारे काफी पार्टिसिपेंट जुड़ चुके हैं, लेकिन विद इन और मोर 4-5 मिनट हमारी पार्टिसिपेंट संख्या और बढ़ जाएगी। तो मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा ज्यादा टाइम ना लेते हुए कि गौरव भाई से, कि वो, क्योंकि जो बैंक ऑडिट बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है, हालांकि आप सब देखते होंगे कि हमने बड़े एफर्ट किए बैंक ऑडिट को सेव करने के लिए, फिर भी ग्रेजुअली रिड्यूस होता जा रहा है। उसके रिगार्डिंग अब हम मतलब इसमें एज एन इंडिविजुअल, क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट का जो व्यू पॉइंट है कि जी प्राइवेट सेक्टर नहीं करवाता, जैसे चोपड़ा जी के साथ हमने इंटरेक्शन मीटिंग रखी हुई थी, जब वो सर्कुलर आया था उन्होंने बड़े व्यू पॉइंट बताए कि जी जब आईसीआईसीआई बैंक के हमारे ही ब्रदर कर रहे हैं, तो इंस्टीट्यूट को इसको रोल प्ले करना चाहिए कि जी वो उनके पेपर मंगवा के चेक करे कि हाउ यू मेक यूर सेल्फ सेटिस्फाइड, कि जी आईसीआईसीआई बैंक का आप कर देते हो, तो इसमें आप क्यों कहते हो कि जी इतना बड़ा ऑडिट करवाओ सभी से। तो इन चीजों पे विचार करने की बात है, हो सकता है इंस्टीट्यूट इन चीजों पे विचार करे, और जैसे अमेरिका में बैंक डूबे हैं उसका भी गवर्नमेंट के ऊपर इंपैक्ट पड़े, और इस वजह से कुछ एक बैंक जो मेरी नॉलेज में आया है, मेड भी बैंक ऑफ इंडिया, पंजाब एंड सिंध बैंक, वो रिक्वायर्ड रेशियो जो 70% मिनिमम है उससे हटके शायद 90% तक ऑडिट करवा रहे हैं। ये एक अच्छी बात है कि वो 90% कवरेज कर रही हैं, क्योंकि वो चाहते हैं कि हम पूरा ऑडिट करवाएं, अगर मेरी इंफॉर्मेशन सही है तो हम इसके ऊपर स्ट्रेंथ इंस्टीट्यूट को भी स्ट्रेस पॉइंट करेंगे कि आप इन पॉइंट के ऊपर दूसरे बैंकों से भी, प्राइवेट बैंकों के ऊपर भी गवर्नमेंट को ये आप एक आइडिया दो कि आप इतने से ऊपर वाली ब्रांचेस कंपल्सरली कराओ, इसके नीचे वाली आप और रोटेशनल बेसिस करवाओ। तो इसके रिगार्डिंग भी हम बात करेंगे इंस्टीट्यूट से। तो मैं अब सेमिनार को स्टार्ट करते हुए रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा गौरव गुप्ता जी से कि वो हमारी आज की फैकल्टी कुंतल पी शाह जी को इंट्रोड्यूस करें और हम इस प्रोग्राम की बिगिनिंग करें।
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू जिंदल साहब। जैसे सर ने बताया कि इस बार का ऑडिट, वैसे ही बैंक ऑडिट हर साल इम्पोर्टेंट अपनी इम्पोर्टेंस बढ़ाता चले जा रहा है, पर इस बार एक लैंडमार्क जजमेंट में पहुंच गए हैं जिसमें आरबीआई अपने हिसाब से रेशो डिसाइड कर रहा है। तो उसके लिए हम कुंतल सर को पिछले कई सालों से सुनते आए हैं, और इनके बेस पे जो ये कमांड या सीबीएस का एनवायरनमेंट जैसे डिस्कशन होती है, बड़ी फ्रूटफुल डिस्कशन रहती है, जिसके बेस पे हमें एनपी आइडेंटिफिकेशन और जो उसके रिलेटेड कई जो ऐसी चीजें हैं जो हमें कंप्यूटराइज एनवायरनमेंट में करनी पड़ती हैं, उसके लिए बड़ी यूजफुल चीजें सर बताते हैं हमेशा अपनी प्रेजेंटेशन के थ्रू। मैं इस बार भी उम्मीद करता हूं कि सर और एक एलिवेटेड अप्रोच के थ्रू हमें एनपी आइडेंटिफिकेशन, और जो बेसिक जो इसमें इशू जो आ रहा है कि सब कुछ ऑटोमेटेड है। बैंक हमेशा ये कहते हैं कि सब कुछ ऑटोमेटेड है जी हमारे पास, तो सब कुछ ऑटोमेटिक जनरेशन होती है एनपी की, उसके लिए कोई जरूरत ही नहीं ज्यादा कुछ करने की, या कोई एमओसी का कोई जरूरत नहीं है। तो मैं सबको रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा थोड़ा उस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू पे कि इसको जनरेट कैसे करना है, जैसे डीपी हो या पेड अप पोजीशन हो या रिन्यूअल हो या और भी चीजें, उसको हमें उस कंटेक्स्ट में इसको बताएं। Kuntal B. Shah ji, fellow member, is a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He is practicing partner of a firm Pradeep R. Shah and Company, and has vast experience in the field of audit, taxation, service tax, FEMA, company law, and VAT matters. To add with this, he has done a diploma in computer programming and has also secured A+ grade in diploma in computer programming of CDAC. That is a much added thing. He's also a co-author for Guidance Note on Audit of Banks 2017 edition under publication by Audit and Assurance Standard Board of ICI. He's also a co-author for book under publication by Committee on Information Technology on Early Warning Signals of Fraud through Credit Weakness. That is a much added advantage thing. I think committee member, he's also committee member on study group for advanced ITT course set up under Board of Studies of ICI. He's also, beside this, he's also co-author of Manual on Concurrent Audit of Banks published by Internal Audit Standard Board of ICI, written so much comprehensive chapters on core banking system. He's also an author on review of demonetization activity by chartered accountants in banks published by Internal Audit Standard Board of ICI. He's also author of Audit of Foreign Exchange Transactions in Statutory Bank Branch Audit, has a massive experience of last several years. Beside this, he's also author of Audit of Foreign Exchange Transaction in Statutory Bank Branch Audit published by WIRC. He has, Kuntal Bhai has addressed various professional gatherings which involves ICI certificate course on concurrent of banks. So more than 80 batches he has addressed. A massive figure to address this thing since the start of this course. He is also taking advanced ITT course as Ahmedabad branch of WIRC, intensive course on service tax under negative list category. Ashwini sir, the list is so long. I must say that he is the much warranted faculty on audit under CBS environment. He has done so much of the things, and also taking a part on latest topics like Bitcoins, preparation and of e-filings, Excel workshops, 3 CDs, bank software, and enormous list of activities is being done by.
ये तो लास्ट ईयर की है, अभी एक साल में और ऐड हो गई होंगी, अभी हमने लेटेस्ट तो लिया नहीं इनका।
LFAR में सर की स्पेशलिटी लिखी हुई है यहाँ पे, ERP में, ऑडिट टूल में, व्हाट नॉट. So I'll request Kuntal sir to please enlighten us all with his good and vast knowledge. Thank you so much. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, I think you're on mute, Jindal ji.
सर हाँ जी, एक मिनट, सॉरी सर, वो आपको एक मिनट, वो एक मिनट प्लीज आप देखिए सर.
Yeah, shall I?
हाँ जी सर, प्लीज.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot, Ashwini ji, Gaurav ji. It is indeed a pleasure to be with you all again. I think this is my first and the last webinar of this session, this season rather. I have not taken any webinar this time because of various reasons, because of office commitment as well as the institute commitment. There have been a lot of travel going on since 15th. So it has taken a toll on my life, this health as well. but I'll try and ensure that today I'll be in a position to share my views effectively for 2 hours, and for that purpose I have already shared a comprehensive background material with Ashwini ji. He'll share it once this session is over. That material contains the presentation that I am going to deliberate today, as well as my few previous presentations, and a detailed write-up on audit through CBS, published by Internal Audit Standard Boards in a book called Manual on Concurrent Audit. So without wasting much of a time, I'll start with the presentation. So we'll be discussing today onto statutory bank branch audit under CBS environment. This time in this particular presentation, I have ensured that we'll go step by step in auditing along with the system side. So in system, I have selected all 4 systems, that is 2 on this Pinnacle and TCS banks, and 1 FlexCube. So now we have a comprehensive system available. This manual is available for all the systems. Let's start with this. Since I'm an auditor like you, I start with my disclaimers. These are my personal views and need not to be considered the views of ICI, Regional Council, or study circles, or any of the forum or of my firm. It should not be considered as a professional advice, and few other disclaimers. So this particular presentation is basically into 3 parts, that is basics, controls, and audit activity through CBS. Now this time I have taken a sequencing of an LFAR. So what we can see is that each stage of LFAR I have selected. I selected the requirement of an LFAR. What are the audit checkpoints from a system perspective into this, and how to do it from a system. So that's how I have recreated this entire PPT. The last part is the contents of the background material. The background material that I'll be sharing would be containing this particular presentation, as well as presentation of audit in CBS environment, where the concepts and menu codes are discussed in detail. The other presentation is where audit process is with reference to audit processes, that is NPA, revenue leakage, office account, and foreign exchange. And the last one is the write-up that I have discussed earlier. So in first 10 minutes, we'll be discussing on few of the basic aspect of core banking system and controls. If you have any questions, you can put it into the Q&A or chat box, whichever is enabled for you. I'll take a break in between the time, and we'll take that as well, or we can have it at the end as well. Let's go on to the basic side first. The core banking system is containing a centralized database where transactions take place at various locations, and it updates this centralized database on real-time basis. So what happens is that whenever we secure any information from either of the or any of the geographical location, we get the same result. So there is no time gap or no lack of time in terms of value when it is sourced from multiple location from the system. System is one, there are multiple touch points available with the systems, and we access information through that. Now that gives us a lot of flexibility with respect to review of information sitting at any place within that network. Now the report generation part is generally taken care of from the backend side through the use of SQL, structured query language. A lot of reports that the bank would be generating. These systems also enable user to generate information through backend through the use of SQL. So once we have an access to, as a branch auditor, we won't have an access to, but if you are a center statutory auditor, you will definitely have an access to the MIS team, where you can generate the tailor-made report as well. But since I believe this is basically the audiences of statutory branch auditor, so we'll be sticking on to those where we'll have probably a information that would be available with us. The predefined access control will allow you only authorized users to have an access to the system. Now, authorized user will also have an predefined access role. That is, a person can access to certain defined roles only into the system. It's not an unlimited access available. Let's say a person working in cash will have an access up to the cash related menus only, not related to other menus like, let's say, trade finance. So same way is the case with the person working with the trade finance may not have an access to the cash menu. So it is handled in this way. Now, this is what an core banking system architecture is all about. It's actually a culmination of a lot of aspects which actually makes a comprehensive system. If you see the different aspects part, it has an enterprise CRM, that is customer related information. So we'll have one comprehensive customer master. A lot of banks have deployed a system now to record the customer communication. That is, let's say customer's request is there for let's say issuance of a checkbook. Now that also gets captured into the system. System also captures till the point of delivery. So that is also they have added into the system now in few of the cases. Then comes the product factory. Different type of products are offered by the bank. Now what happens is that each set of product, let's say overdraft product. Now overdraft product has each set of parameters available, right? So those parameters are linked to the products. So what happens is that those masters or parameters or basic controls are embedded at the product level as well. So this is how actually this setup happens into the system with respect to product. Then comes the functional services. Now there are certain set of services that the bank would be providing, or there are certain set of services which are required for the transaction processing or an internal control. Let's take an example is on a limit. Now limit is a beautiful point or beautiful concept implemented in any of the CBS, where the main limits, sub limits, interchangeability of limit, everything is taken care of, and the system validates all these parameters at each transaction that is getting processed under those accounts. So even at the transaction level, there are multiple limits that are being checked by the system, and that's what the beauty of a system is. Then comes the reusable business component. Now there are certain set of components which are available as a reusable component in terms of it can be called for any of the aspect. Let's take an example for an interest. Now interest is a reusable component which can be used for deposit, or it can be used for the advances as well. The program is already stored, or the programs or the components are already prepared in any software. Now that those components are stored in a library, and at the time of usage the source code is written in that sense that call for that particular program from the library. Now this is basically on, I'm just guiding you on a basics of how the system is generally made up of. Once we understand this basic logic, then it will be very useful for us whenever we are going for an audit. It is true that we only need an application knowledge, but how the system is made up of, that gives you an added advantage, that at the time of application you can also think it over, that yes, because the system goes through this process, the application would work in this way. Otherwise the knowledge of application of system is very much important rather than on a system complete architecture system side. Then comes the accounting backbone, that is general ledger, multi-currency and transaction, and some on the infrastructure support side. Let's now discuss certain part on the control side. Authorization of a transaction as per delegation authority. The transaction is processed and authorized by the person who is having sufficient authority available. Now each person, that is each user ID, is assigned with certain power on cash, clearing and transfer. Now each of these transactions will also be segregated into debit transaction and credit transaction, and for each of these transactions there will be a limit assigned to it. Now what happens is that the bank would be issuing regularly their instructions or the circulars, where each category of person, let's say clerk, assistant manager, manager, deputy manager, AGM, right, chief manager, each person will have different set of financial powers available with them. Now whether that instruction is synced into the system properly or not, if we are doing concurrent audit, that is a very important point for us to review it. Probably for statutory audit it may be too far-fetched for us, to review this part, because there is plenty of things that we need to review it at the during the audit time. Then comes data input validation control. Now each data point or each field in the system would have input level validation control. Let's take an example of amount field. Now in case of an amount field, the system will not allow any alpha characters to go into. Now these are the small controls added into the field level. So what happens is, when we design our audit processes, we need to take care of these, and we need to understand this, we need to take care of this, and then devise our entire audit program. If it is a free field, and if someone is allowed to write anything, then it becomes a very difficult point. I will tell you an example of PAN. Now we all believe that PAN would also be having a validation control, but sadly that's not the case in banking softwares, many at the place. So we found out PAN of 12 digit, 11 digit, 8 digit, 6 digit as well. Only half of the portion or some extra characters are there in PAN. So that's an invalid PAN only. Even form 60 is also updated in a lot of cases as a FORM 60, right? Someone mentions forms 60, someone mentioned form space 60, kind of thing. So don't believe completely onto the system unless and until you have tested it or you have tried doing through the sample. Then comes accessibility in software area as per employee grade and power. This we have discussed on with in the previous slide, where the cash and the trade finance menu persons we have discussed. Then comes the product level controls. Now here we need to understand that there are certain set of products, when you invoke that I want to open an account under with this product, the controls will also flow in from that particular product. Let me take an example. Let's say a person is coming to open an NRE account. NRE account, the moment NRE account is opened, system will automatically mark withholding tax as not applicable. Now, because this product itself is for those customers who are non-resident and these are external accounts. So any interest, anything is there, withholding taxes would not be applicable into this account. However, if it is an NRO account, withholding tax would be made applicable. Then the user may changes as per the rate as per the benefit available as per DTAA provisions. But this is the difference, that even a product determines that which are the parameters which should be there. Now in this case, NRE case, the system will also validate that whether this person can open NRE account. It will validate whether the person is a non-resident as per customer master or not, and the passport details are available with the bank or not. So these are all internal controls that are available. As an auditor, our role is this, that whenever, now it may be an advances, it may be a deposit, anything, whenever we deal with the masters, we need to ensure that to what extent the masters have control into it. If the masters do not have any control or users have all the rights to update the masters, God can only save us, because that is going to create an havoc into the system. And in many of the banks, it has happened. Once we progresses with this PPT, I'll show you, I'll explain you that this is where there are problems, or this is where there is a landmine. So understand where the landmines are. So it should not happen that you step onto those cases and then have a problem at a later point of time into that particular part. Then comes the controlled error handling through warning, exception, and error. Now, system is any system rather is designed in this way that it handles various transaction or the interaction with the user through warning, exception, and an error. Warning will only warns the user. It says to the user, have you done this, or this is what you are going to do. Now it only warns the user, it only pinches the user. It will not do anything with respect to prevention of any of the transaction or prohibiting any transaction. Exception means, and it's an artificial wall that would be created that the user is required to climb through just to go on the other side. Now, whatever are the actions of the user, that will be recorded as an exception report. That is, these are not a routine transactions. So the senior person or a branch manager can review it on the next day. That is once the end of day is over. Whereas the error means the user will not be allowed to go further unless the correct values have been fed into. That is, let's say a person is trying to debit an account which is a closed account. System will say that the account is already closed, you cannot have a transaction. So unless and until an active account is selected, user cannot go further. Then comes some of the concepts. I would advise everyone to be attentive onto these aspects, because these are the base for us for the future, or the in some time we'll be discussing on certain menu codes, and I'll be just pointing it out that we discuss this part into the concept side. Customer master and account master. We need to understand this part, that we have customer master here, we have account master here, and then beneath that there are transactions. So what happens is that customer master and account master shares parent and the child relationship, meaning thereby there is a concept of inheritance into this one. So if there is any error at the customer master level, it will have an impact onto all the accounts open under it. I'll take an example first to explain what is the importance of masters and how it can create an havoc into the system if not properly reviewed or not properly updated. Now, let's take an example that I went to a bank to open a new relationship for new account opening. The bank had asked me to provide KYC document, and I provided everything, and they have opened my account as well. There is no error as such into the account opening check or any amount, anything. However, they have made a mistake in updating my customer master. Instead of updating my year of birth as 1983, they have updated as 1933. Now, what happens is this: the system will consider me as a senior citizen. Now, what happens is that the impact is infinite. Meaning thereby, if I open numerous fixed deposits, the system will still allow me the additional rate of interest or the benefit that is available to the senior citizens. However, if I don't open any account, there might not be any impact. So the master can have an havoc into all accounts that are there. Another example, again a simple example. Let's say you have a small boy in your home, and you went to open a minor account with the bank. You applied for that, the account also got opened. Now, instead of updating baby boy into the system, that is gender as male, they have updated as female. Now, what happens that even for that baby boy, that boy would be eligible for Sukanya Sunidhi scheme. Now, here comes this masters with the parameters, that is product with a parameter. Now, product Sukanya Sunidhi scheme says that you need to check the gender first. Now, gender says that you are male now, right? If it is male, the system will say that no, this account cannot be opened. But if it is female, it can be opened. Now, these are all examples of a deposit side. Let's come to the advances side. Now, assume that under Mudra loan, there is a specific loan available to women. Now, what happens that if a person that is a male opens an account, and instead of gender male, that's a female is selected. And now with the loan, these are priority sector loans in certain cases. Now, if those loans are opened for male, that's a clear-cut violation of guidelines. Secondly, the issue would also be there on a priority wise classification as well. So what we need to understand is, if there is any product which requires specific kind of controls, either on a customer master and an account master, we need to ensure that we verify those controls. And not only verify, we need to ensure that we maintain document for verification as well. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for us. And now Institute's CAQ department has released an Excel file as well few days back. I'm not sure how many of you have downloaded. I'll ask Ashwini ji to share it with everyone. I'll forward that message as well. Right. Ashwini ji, have we shared this CAQ's file?
CAQ file आपने भेजी थी?
नहीं, इंस्टीट्यूट में रिलीज हुआ है. I'll share it across to you once this session is over.
Okay. आप शेयर कर देना सर, मैं अपने गूगल ड्राइव में ही रख दूंगा ना, वो वहां से डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं.
Yeah, so it's an excellent
TQS जो एक्सेल का मैकेनिज्म है सर, जिसमें पूरा LFAR का और सारा पॉइंट.
Yes. So that was an attempt that is made by institute this time for the first time, where Yeah, quality control. So where institute has ensured that each item is dissected into the small part, and
Yes.
the dashboard kind of thing is available to all. That's the best. This is, I can say, that's it's a preliminary one. There may be some errors, some issues would be there, but it's a good stepping stone for all small firms
सर
that they
उसमें
can at least.
जो डॉक्यूमेंटेशन की इरेगुलरिटीज या जो पॉइंट्स टू बी टेकन केयर फॉर मेजर सेक्टर एडवांसेस वो थोड़ा
Right.
उसमें मिस किया वो उसमें
Yeah. So the concept was this, that because this started bit late, and this time it could not be made in that comprehensive. But the best part is that we can also add our point, and it automatically gets updated into the dashboard, right? So we can make it comprehensive from our office policy as well, right? But that is actually a stepping stone. Someone has done some work, commendable work, and we can take it further. Right, so we can have that as well. So the small firm would be largely benefited through that part, right? Okay. Now we were onto the customer master, account master, and transactions. Now customer master, there was an error which had an impact onto accounts. Now account, beneath that there were transactions, and transactions had an issue with all these erroneous masters. So first and the foremost thing is that as an audit or a branch auditor, we need to go with to the bank while we are going for an audit to ensure that all these important masters, what we can do is we can open an Excel sheet. We can create an Excel sheet with the account number, name of the customer, cost ID, type of facility, and LFAR point number, so that we can trace back that which sample is for which the LFAR requirement. And thereafter we can have multiple columns for each type of master. Say date of loan, that is sanction date, renewal date, review date, EMI, interest rate, limit, that is sanction limit, drawing power, any change in sanction limit during there, any change in DP, any change in interest rate, moratorium period. Now these are all the masters. Now what we need to do within all these points, we need to open 3 more columns. What is there in the sanction letter or the document that we are verifying, what's there into the system, and variance between the two. Because I'll just share you a few of the points, even though I think you have some session on 31st with Kannaji and Sachdevaji. What I would suggest or inform you is this, that the revised LFAR, now applicable from 2021, is full of landmines. So we need to understand that there are mines everywhere. We need to understand that we are trading a very cautious, we need to trade a very cautious path in between, and we need to ensure that we carry out all the activity, and not only carrying out all activity, but recording or keeping record of all the activity that we have carried out. The questions are so drafted in LFAR that unless and until you have audited, you cannot reply to those questions. And if you assuming that even without doing you are trying to reply it, then you may end up giving an absolute assurance, which probably you have not even worked till that sense. So please don't do that kind of thing. Please work on to, we need to improve our quality as well, and improvement in quality is an ongoing process. You cannot expect that overnight we'll have an improvement in quality. Now this is all this whatever is required, the tools that are required, the support that is required, right, that would be provided by institute and this organization level as well. So please have that kind of Excel sheet prepared. Then the second concept comes is the sole ID and set ID. Now set ID is a specific concept, or this term is specifically used with reference to Pinnacle. Now sole means the service outlet ID, that is the branch ID where the account is opened or maintained. Now, what happens is under a CBS as compared to the TBA. Now, under the total branch automation, TBA, prior to CBS, what used to happen? जहां भी आपका अकाउंट है, वहीं से आपका अकाउंट खुलेगा और वहां मेंटेन होगा और वहीं ट्रांजैक्शन होगा. जबकि CBS के अंदर ऐसा हो गया, अकाउंट एक जगह पे खुलेगा, ट्रांजैक्शन वो ब्रांच से भी कर सकते हो, दूसरी ब्रांच से भी कर सकते हो. तो इश्यू क्या आता है कि भाई मुझे ट्रांजैक्शन सर्च करना है कि मेरी ब्रांच ने कितना किया, फिर वो किसी भी ब्रांच के अकाउंट के ऊपर हो सकता है, या फिर मेरे ब्रांच में कितने अकाउंट्स है. तो नंबर एक ही हो गया ब्रांच का, बट उसके 2 रेफरेंस पॉइंट हो गए कि एक कि अकाउंट किसका है, दैट इज हु इज मेंटेनिंग द अकाउंट, दूसरा किसने ट्रांजैक्शन किया है. सो इफ यू वांट टू जनरेट एनी इंफॉर्मेशन दैट इज विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द GL बैलेंस ऑफ एन अकाउंट और सेट ऑफ अकाउंट्स, सोल ID is important part for you. But if you want to generate an information on transactions, then set ID is important one for you, that you can mention in set ID field the sole ID of the branch which you actually wanted to audit or want to search onto. तो आपको पता चलेगा कि कितने ट्रांजैक्शंस वो पर्टिकुलर ब्रांच ने किए हैं। ये चीज में सिर्फ ध्यान रखना, सोल और सेट ऐसा आपका मिक्स हो जाएगा, देन इट मे क्रिएट प्रॉब्लम। इन सर्टन बैंक्स द सेट इज नोन एज इनिशिएटिंग ब्रांच आईडी, right? So the branch where the transaction got initiated, so that is what is also termed as into various system as well, or also known as branch code. Then comes the pointing type self-reconciling accounts. Now, very important concept. This is only on a concept side, but its application is very important. You might have heard various names or various type of accounts known as office account, flebby accounts, temporary account, sundry account, suspense account, EOD, BOD, check account, or zero balance suspense account, and whatnot. Now, all these accounts are temporary accounts or parking accounts where funds are parked or funds are withdrawn pending actual accounting of the transactions. Now, as the word says, it's a parking account, it's a temporary account. However, sadly, it has been observed that in banks, these accounts are permanent residents for a lot of transactions. Now these accounts are fraud prone area, and a lot of frauds happen through these accounts. I've included 2 slides into this presentation that which are the important points that we need to looking into while we review the office accounts. Now, office account reporting is there in LFAR at 2 places, that is in other assets and other liability, and we need to ensure that we review the outstanding transactions, any long pending transactions, as well as the transaction into the office account. So don't forget to review the transaction, because if you forget to review the transaction, you may be missing out a lot of things. It has been observed that these type of accounts have been misused like anything for saving accounts turning into NPA. Right. These accounts have been used to generate fake turnover or only a imaginary turnover in the account, where let's say account is within the limit since last 90 days. However, the transactions are not there in the account, which is or rather the transactions are of very minuscule amount, which is not even able to cover the last 90-day interest debit as well. So in that scenario, many of the times it has been observed that office accounts have been used, where office account is debited and customer's account is credited, and customer's account is debited and office account is once again credited, with the narration in the reversal as a wrong entry reversal. Now, whether this is actually a wrong entry or a purposeful entry camouflaged with the wrong entry, that is an important part. Secondly, for all such accounts, what we need to have is we need to see to it into the ledger. We need to also review it that whether if you remove this particular entry in computation, whether the system would have marked this as an NPA because of this CCOD or that out of order condition. This is how we need to proceed step by step further. Otherwise, if you simply would like to jump onto the report generated by the system, which is marked by all this kind of camouflage or manipulation, then it is not going to be the proper reporting or a proper auditing. We also need to include certain cross checks into our auditing side. That does not mean that we don't need to or we should not be reading into the reports, but we cannot simply rely on to the reports generated by the system. For the same reason, I will tell you that why I'm saying this, that we should not be relying 100% on the report. Now, there is a report in Finacle called ATOR, that is account turnover report. Now, assume that for the time being that the total interest in debited in last 90 days is, let's say, 80,000 rupees. Now your ATOR shows that this account had a credit turnover of, let's say, 1 crore rupees. Right. So you always believe that 80,000 is the interest debit, 1 crore is the credit. Hence, it is way beyond 80,000, and we should not be going into or we should not be selecting these accounts. At the same time, we have another example that the account interest debit is, let's say, 50,000, whereas the credit turnover is 30,000 only. Right. Now, in this case, these such cases you should be selecting for, but you cannot ignore the this 80,000 wala case. Reason being, 1 crore, when you go into their account and you find that 1 crore came in from some other account, right, and immediately it got withdrawn with an erroneous entry reversal kind of a thing. Now that is even a zero turnover is there into that account, but because of this 1 crore entry, system considered it as 1 crore. So what I would like to say here is that your report is useful, but to the extent and not to the fullest extent. So our audit process should be strong enough to understand and to identify which are the reports to be used and to what extent. Just because we have some report generated from the system, we cannot simply rely, or we cannot design our audit processes to leave it there itself. Right. So please be sure that you have your adequate sample or some other modes of validating this reading of a report or not. Pointing type and self-reconciling. Pointing type or self-reconciling is a capability with which these accounts, the ones that I mentioned earlier, are opened with. Now it is exactly, we can say, a replica of what we find in Tally. We all are very conversant with using Tally. In Tally, there is a concept of bill reference number. Now in bill reference number, what happens is that whenever there is a purchase transaction, let's say, when you book a purchase and you have enabled bill reference into the customer's, that is creditor's account, you have purchased, you have booked the purchase transaction. At the time of payment, system will give you a list of outstanding invoices against which you want to make a payment. So now once you have these invoices, you select an invoice, and once you punch in all this thing for the payment, and thereafter when you go into the ledger and press Alter B, that will give you the outstanding bill wise amount with aging as well. Now aging shows that since how many days this payment is pending for. Right, for MSME we are doing all this activity, right? The same thing is there in the system CBS as well. Now these accounts are opened with a particular capability. That capability is known as pointing type or self-reconciling accounts. Right, now what happens is that there are set of reports available where it shows that the outstanding entries into these accounts. Now the reports can be generated from the system as well. I'll show you in the later part of this presentation that which are the menu codes through which this can be generated, or which report can be used for. However, let's take an example that in one of the case, the system is showing that suspense account is outstanding with 50,000 rupees. One entry is outstanding for last 3 days. Now, if we find that it's only 3 days, that's fine. We always believe that something would be there and they'll be doing it in some time, because still they have some time for reversal. However, when we look into the account transaction of a suspense account, we find that since last so many days or so much of period, the same account is getting debited, same account is getting credited for numerous time. Right, and the same amount, 50,000 rupees, meaning thereby there is a rotation of entry going on into this office account, wherein they the branch users are trying to hide the actual outstanding days into this particular entry. So if such kind of cases are there, we also need to report that part, and it goes under a manipulation side. Right, if it's too outstanding for so long, then whether any provisioning is required in case of a debit transactions or in case of a credit transaction, we need to ascertain that why these entries are outstanding. Then comes the interest table master. Now again, interest table master, again a very important concept with respect to this revised LFAR, where there are 3 specific questions for interest. Now first is whether rate of interest is correctly fed into the system. That is first part in LFAR. Second part, it says that in case of a loans with MCLR or an EBLR, whether the rates are getting reviewed on timely basis. And the third one is that whether the computation of interest and everything is in order or not, interest, commission, fees, etc. Right. So there are 3 specific questions with respect to interest side, and we need to, for that purpose, we need to understand the master, how the interest master behave, or how the interest master can function into this system. Now interest can be updated in two ways into the system. One is static rate, one is the dynamic rate. Now static rate means, let's take an example that a bank has sanctioned a loan of MCLR plus 3%, where MCLR, let's say for example, is 6%. Now 6 plus 3 comes to 9% of a loan. Now what happens is that one option is that in a static rate, we update it as 9% directly. The other one is that where we call a table, there is a interest table of MCLR plus 3 table. Now that table would have in entry or the rate that would be coming from outside or some other information source, where the MCLR means what? MCLR means the rate that is applicable from this date to this date at so and so rate. So now that access for updation of that MCLR rate is with the central office. So what happens is, whenever there is a change in this rate, they'll update into an MCLR this one, and once they have a table in place, so all the loans where the MCLR amendment is required to be carried out will happen automatically. But again, we need to see to it what is mentioned in the sanction letter for the reset clause. In certain banks, they have now stated that we reset only on quarter and quarter. We don't reset on each a specific time period. Now that we need to see to it, and whether the system is set up in that manner or not. Sanction letter may say something and system will say something else. We need to ensure that whether the system is behaving in a way in which the sanction letter is drafted or not. That is what is very important one. So this is on an interest master. One more point in interest table master. In particular in Finacle, there is a concept of interest preferentials. Now interest preferentials means there are interest preferences given either on a negative preference or a positive preference. Now these all preferences would be available at customer master as well as account master. If any preference, let's say interest preference is available in debit interest and credit interest. Now if someone would have updated debit interest preferential as -1, then what will happen is that, and that too at a customer preference level. So what will happen, all the accounts being at the customer master will have -1% effect onto the debit interest, right? All the accounts. Now that would be a very dangerous proposition to have. So we need to check that whether all these parameters are properly set up into the system, and thereafter we can mention, yes, the rates have been properly fed up, or these are the cases where rates have not been properly fed into the system, right? So for that, we also need to see to it during the year, are there any changes into the rate that is on MCLR side, or the second part is, are there any changes in the interest table during the year or not, right? So holistically, when you have this entire thing in a place, you can respond to at least 2 or 3 paragraphs of LFAR. But for that, we need to first ascertain what is required to be done against each line item in LFAR, which are the information sources available for us for that audit, how we will use that information, what would be the source document, how we would be reporting, and the working paper reference. So this is how holistically we can carry out and work, and then only we can say that yes, we have carried out work in a proper and a professional manner, and we have preserved all records as well. Rather, if we work in this manner, the same file can be utilized next year as well. So it's probably a one-time exercise, and only some of the portion require change over year on year. So please try and create that kind of audit manual for all type of audit. This being an bank audit, but you can implement this for Caro audit or for even for tax audit as well. Right. Okay. Now comes the general ledger. General ledger is a concept where how the account aggregation and everything happens and how the balance sheet is drawn. The aggregation of an account balance will be at the GL subhead level, and aggregation of GL subhead level will have an aggregation at the GL level. Right. Now what happens is this, that there is an in between this subhead and account, there is a concept called scheme code. Now scheme codes are actually a type of product or the name assigned to a product. Let's take an example. Subhead level is there for savings account. Now under savings account, you have silver saving account or a gold saving account as well. Now scheme code will not have any aggregation at the account level, but scheme code is important identifier. Let's say you have a Finacle in place and you want to search through system. There is a command called ACS, account selection, and if you want to search any specific type of loan, then you can use this scheme code. Or you are working in TCS banks and you want to filter it out certain important reports where the scheme numbers are available. So through those scheme codes, you can filter out into the report and you can identify which are the accounts under the scheme codes. So that's what the concept. Now this is the last concept that is last concept that would be discussing is the limit setup. One of the finest setup you will find in any of the systems. Now, this setup is actually in a way that even a smallest of transaction that is getting processed can handle this entire gamut of this complex sanction letter kind of a thing. So what happens is, let's understand, and I'll also share some of my experience with certain frauds that have taken place, or certain manipulation or a window dressing that is happening through this part. And rather, RBI has also acknowledged that, and they have included into LFAR part as well. So let's first understand this, and thereafter we'll understand those issues as well. Limit. Now, each customer will be set up with a limit. Now, assuming that whatever is there on your screen is a part of a sanction letter. Now, if you have a total of this term loan, WCDL, CC or bill purchase, the total comes to 550. As against that, total funded facility, maximum amount available is 500. Same with the non-funded, that is LC and BG. 300 and 300 is there. However, the total cannot exceed 500. Meaning thereby you have an interchangeability of limit available, let's say under LC and a BG, that you can maximum portion of an LC that you can enjoy is 300. However, in that scenario, your BG should be less than or equals to 200. Right. So that's how you can make use of this. There are a few sanction letters where interchangeability between non-funded and funded is also permitted. That I will commit at some later point of time. Now into this, what happens is you have a limit set up into the system. Beneath the limit, you have two nodes, that is funded node and non-funded node. Right. Now what happens that beneath this funded node, you have four nodes, that is term loans, WCDL, CC and BP. And within the non-funded, you have two nodes, that is LC and a BG. Each node level, at each node level, there will be a limit prescribed. So even the funded node will have a limit of 500. This LC, BG will have 300, 300, BP, 50, CC, 200 likewise. Within which you will have accounts. Now, account can also have a limit. So let's say CCOD limit is there, within which you have an account where account is 150 and 75. So within which you can also operate, that you have a CC account and an OD account open under this one. However, total cannot exceed 200, but individually it can go up to 150 and 75, kind of that as well. What happens is with the transaction processing, and which is what is very important to understand into this one. At the time of processing of transaction, system will start checking all. First, system will check whether account level limit is available or not. Thereafter, if it is available, system will go a step above. That is whether the node level limit is available or not. Let's say on a CC or an OD loan. Thereafter, system will check whether the funded node, that is the previous node to CC, whether the limit is available or not. And system will once again go at the limit level as well to check whether the limit at the top level, the limit is available or not. And if everywhere the limit is available, then the transaction gets processed. Now, this is the finest way of implementation of system. Now, what happens is this, that if it is not properly set up, either the customer would be in a position to utilize more limit, or you may find that the customer is manipulating with the banking system and just rotating the funds within the bank accounts only, and with no active proceeds coming into this account. Right now comes the issues with respect to limit and why it assumes a lot of importance. I'll give an example. There is an account with a limit of 1 lakh rupees, whereas outstanding is continuously in excess of 1 lakh of rupees, let's say 1,15,000 rupees. Now we have already completed 89 days. We are on 90th day right now, today. Now, as per out of order guidelines under IRACP, that is, if the account is continuously overdrawn for continuous period of 90 days, the account would be termed as out of order and thus NPA. Now on 90th day, let's say a user is increasing the limit from 1 lakh to 1,25,000. What will happen into the system is that system will check at the end of day whether 1,15,000, that's the account balance, is more than 1,25,000, that's the limit. The answer is no. Then system will say that there is no overdue, customer has still the limit available, and system will not consider as an overdue. Just keep in mind, since last 89 days, it is completely an overdue. The very next day, that 125 limit is reduced to 1 lakh, right? And now when that particular day, end of day happens, now at that point of time, what will happen is that system will once again check whether 1,15,000 is more than 1 lakh. The answer is yes. Then the system will check whether this overdue is going on since how many days. So it will go in past, but it will observe that no, just immediately to the previous this day to the previous day, there was no overdue, meaning thereby it will now have an overdue since 1 day, meaning thereby your 89-day counter is now 0 and your account is saved, and again you can get a 89 days time as well. So what we need to understand with all this thing is that manipulation does happen into the system. When we mention that we have done a transaction detailing as per LFAR prescription, or we have reviewed that whether system is working perfectly without manual intervention, or what is the data integrity that the auditor feels, all these points are vitiated or will have an impact onto. How can you say that data is there is no issue with data integrity in such a scenario? You cannot, right? Because in this scenario, the data was manipulated, and which has actually ensured that system fails. Right. Second point, and that's very important point and included into LFAR as well. Now the same example that's there on your screen, assuming that LC of 300 is in vogue. Now what happens that this 300 LC is getting devolved. Now the LC got devolved of 300. Customer is already utilized full amount of 500, which is appearing underfunded. Now on the date of devolvement, the amount will flow in from contingent liability to the asset side. Now in that scenario, what will happen is that the total funded exposure to of the bank against total funded of 500, the exposure will become 800. So 300 would become overdue. Now if this 300 is carried on up to 90 days, the account will turn into NPA. So what the borrower is required to do, borrower is required to bring in about 300 rupees so as to ensure that the overdue is reduced, or it goes, the outstanding balance goes below the 500 rupee mark. Now what happens is that the borrower is not bringing anything, but the bank has invoked an interchangeability clause wherein the limit that is now free into the non-funded liability, that is, since 300 is removed, BG is 200 only. So 300 limit is available under non-funded. They have shifted this 300 to the funded one. So without even a recovery of a rupee, the bank will ensure that there is no overdue into the account. Now that's a classic case of an evergreening. Right, and that is what the Reserve Bank of India stated and asked the auditor to confirm. Have you observed any such case where interchangeability is permitted after devolvement of an LC or an invocation of BG? Now, your role as an auditor is very much important into this. So you need to first understand and you need to access information in how many cases interchangeability was carried out or updated into the system during the year. And you also need to get hold of information of how many cases LC devolvements are there or not, or the BG invocations are there or not during the year. So these 2 points I thought to discuss with you into this. How to do it, we'll check it in just 2 minutes from now on. Now, these are the prominent systems in India and world over. Finacle by Edgewolf Systems, that's a part of an Infosys group. FlexCube by Oracle Financial Services, and TCS by Tata Consulting Services. Finacle is currently having 2 active versions, Finacle 7 and Finacle 10. FlexCube is there and TCS Banks is there. Finacle 7 is not used much now. Almost all banks are now migrating to the latest version, that is Finacle 10. However, still it is there in some of the banks, and hence I have included all 4 systems. Any questions up to this one? And thereafter I'll be moving on to the
एक हैंड रेज है राजीव कुमार जी का. हाँ जी राजीव कुमार जी, आपको अनम्यूट किया है जी. हाँ जी राजीव कुमार जी, आप पूछिए. क्यूए में कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है. अगर किसी का क्यूए में क्वेश्चन है तो बताएं. चैट में ऑन कर देता हूँ, मेरे ख्याल में चैट ऑन नहीं है शायद.
राजीव कुमार जी, आपको पहले अनम्यूट करना पड़ेगा. आपको एनेबल
किया जी मैंने अनम्यूट उनको एक तो.
नहीं, म्यूट दिखता है मुझे.
नहीं,
I think गीता जी,
मतलब आप अनम्यूट करिए जी अपना. राजीव जी, गीता शर्मा जी, आपको भी किया है जी.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for very good introduction of CBS system. My question is regarding the reporting of human intervention, except for the LFAR, where we have to report in the main report.
Okay, see, we need to understand from this perspective. Main report is with respect to true and fair view of the financial statements that you are auditing.
Right.
Whenever you find any issue with respect to any of the intervention, be it be the human or the system. See, because there are certain set of systems also designed in such a way that it will prevent system to behave in a proper manner. So I'll say that any intervention. Now, in that context, what we need to see to it that whether it is impacting my true and fair view. If my answer is yes, I need to qualify in my main audit report as well with detailed explanation that why I'm qualifying this. Now, then comes whether that particular qualification can be quantified as well. If it can be quantified, then I need to quantify and give an MOC. Now, in certain cases, it might not be in a position to be quantified because of the large number of issues.
Yes,
in that scenario, that fact should be there into the main audit report as well. That because of these reasons, the quantification is not feasible, right? But only when my true and fair view is impacted, I'll have it in the main audit report. If it is not impacted but one-off case, and in that scenario, I need to report it under LFAR. However, if this intervention has created an issue with IRAC provision, or that is the what you call asset classification, which requires change, then I need to use it in MOC mode as well. And my detailed reporting under LFAR. If it is a large scale one, both places. I don't want to say that you cannot classify this as a fraud. If you happen to find out, have all the reasoning and everything available with respect to fraud side, then it's a different channel that you need to directly report it to the Reserve Bank of India as well.
So in many cases, practically, we have seen that they change the days of, say 90 days, they change, the date is changed in many cases.
Yeah.
In that case, the account is...
if you can get hold of that on a very specific front,
right,
you can take a call. But if you are also not sure how this has happened, right, and to call it as fraud, it becomes very difficult one as well.
right.
Right. So just see the scenario when you are there, just see to it the scenario, available information on hand, and then take a call. But first two I already answered on that count.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
कुमार जी, आपका भी है तो क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हैं जी.
I think
deliberation of any customer of bank enhance the limit on 90th day, can we declare NPA? ये क्वेश्चन है किसी.
Okay, yeah, I'll take that question as well. I think Gaganji has a question. Sir, if any client give wrong financial statement to bank in case of CC, can we treat it as fraud? My answer, understand this answer in proper context. If any documents have been given by the customer which turns out to be a fraudulent document, it is a case of fraud, and that is required to be handled in this manner only. Reason being that actually gives a wrong impression to the bank, that, and based on that, bank carries out certain set of work. Right, and in that case you can specifically or directly take that account to the fraud account and have can invoke 100% provisioning straight away as loss. I'll not name the word loss. It's a fraud account and 100% provisioning would be there. Sir, as per your deliberation, if any customer of bank enhance the limit on 90th day, can we declare as NPA? See, don't go. See, that is where I always say, don't jump onto the conclusions. First, ascertain under what circumstances they have done and whether they have an approval for the same or not. What is the recurrence numbers and whether this is happening on a perennial manner or perennial nature or not, where they are doing it for all, they are doing it for one customer on an every 89th day, right? And if turns out to be, see, that is where I refer to when I started my deliberation, I stated एक Excel file बनाना है. वो Excel file के अंदर हमको ये सब points देखने हैं अगेन ईच अकाउंट, कि भाई सिस्टम के अंदर कितनी बार चेंज दिख रहा है लिमिट का, और सैंक्शन लेटर में कितनी बार चेंज हुआ है. अगर सैंक्शन ही नहीं है तो वो सिस्टम मैनिपुलेशन है, तो वो सिनेरियो के अंदर उसको आपको एनपीए करना पड़ेगा अगर वो उसके अंदर फॉरफिट बैठता है एज ऑन 31st of March. Even without 31st of March also, if you find that it account is required to be marked as NPA but bank did not mark, तो एक और जगह भी है LFAR के अंदर के do you agree with the branch classification, you can very well say no. However, at the end of the year there is no impact, but during the year this is the problem, and this is the problem with respect to the manipulation of system, which in our opinion is a manual intervention and which has impacted the system classification. So don't jump onto directly to NPA, but yes, if the circumstances, all documents are saying that way, it is definitely an NPA and it is required to be done through an MOC. I think chat is done. Any other question? Yeah, Q&A also has a question. Hi, please share circular regarding agriculture advance getting NPA due to non-renewal after 5 years. I need to share. I don't have offhand everything available, or we need to see to it in the this guidance note. But I don't have right now anything. I'll check if by the time of closure and if there are any Q&A going on. If something is there, I'll definitely share. Yep. So Neha ji has a question. Neha ji, I enabled you. You can unmute yourself and ask the question. I think she has lowered it. Okay. Okay, fair enough. Now let's go further. Once again, if you have any queries or anything, you can put it through either hand. You can raise your hand for direct discussion, or you can put into chat or Q&A. So now let's move on to this important part and third part. Now, let's understand first how this presentation is made or prepared in this way. This presentation is, this particular slide is in, currently what you are seeing is in 2 parts, and the third part is in the next slide. What I have done this time is I have taken a sequencing of an LFAR. So I just want to give you some of my disclaimers first. This is not a complete LFAR. Now this, wherever the LFAR points have been discussed, it only contains suggested audit checkpoints from system side, not from the other audit procedures. So don't consider this as an complete audit process. I have tried to assimilate. Now let's understand this one, and we'll resume that point. See the first point, point number 1B. Have the cash balances at the branch ATMs been checked at the periodical interval as per procedure prescribed by the controlling authorities? Now, what we need to see to it, that whether verification has happened or not. So that is a document part. So I will not enter into that part. But what is the important other part is this, that I'll check that they are saying that on that particular day the balance was 10 lakh of rupees, and I have verified 10 lakh of rupees. But whether the balance was actually 10 lakh of rupees on that day or not, that we need to see to it from the system. So for that purpose, we need to use the system, and this is what it will look like. So now your presentation is like this way: LFAR side, suggested audit checkpoint, and how to do it from the system. Now it contains all 4 systems. I have tried to include all important commands and useful command against each audit item. There is one more method that I can share 1000 commands or 1200, 1400 commands, but it won't serve the purpose unless and until you know which command is required to be used when. What I'll do is, during the deliberation time, I'll discuss certain important commands and peculiar item of that command, or some important tips as well. And with that, we'll go further. Right. Okay. So let's start with this one. For the verification of ledger balance, there is a command called ACLI in Finacle. Now that's an excellent command, and we all would be using this command. That is account ledger inquiry. Now, in Finacle 10, there is an equivalent command, that is 2 commands are there rather, HACLI, HACL, INQ. Now, what happens is that you all have used Tally. In Tally, there is a command called DAL, rather shortcut is DAL, display account ledger. Now, this is equivalent to DAL. Once you go into DAL and find this ledger, you open the ledger, and when you press enter, you go to the voucher entry screen. In ACLI, you just need to press Control E. In case of an HACLI or HACLI INQ, there is an hyperlink that would be available against at the left hand side of each entry, and when you press it, there will be a new pop-up window opening up, and that pop-up window will have the voucher entry. Now, the difference between HACL and IHACL INQ is that HACL INQ will give you more information in terms of transactions, and it will allow you to navigate through the different transaction vouchers as part run as well. So if you want a detailed information, I would suggest you to use IHACL INQ rather than HACLI. In TCS banks, cash related things, you can access it through reports. So in TCS banks, there are shortcuts available as well. Now those shortcuts are actually in numbers, that is known as shortcodes, but it's very difficult to remember those numbers. So what I have done is I have given you the path that you go to the report first, then go to the cash related reports and press cash summary. So you'll get certain cash type of reports. So these are the reports in TCS banks. And then comes the flex queue. Now certain aspects. I have tried to ensure, tried to make it prepare this presentation in such a way that all commands generally available in all the systems at all the banks are only included into this one. Any specific command with respect to any bank, I have not included herein. It may so happen It may so happen that the command that I have mentioned might not be accessible in your login as an auditor, because that login is of a lower work class. In that context, you need to go and meet the branch official through his ID. Probably you will be in a position to access it. It may be possible that some of the commands are disabled in some of the banks. In that scenario, it won't be useful. So I would say that how to use this presentation or a background material, you can just take a printout of this material. Beside that, whenever you go for an audit, what you can do is you can mention that way that yes, this is the command that is useful, but this is not the command which is useful. You can just strike it off. Or if you find out that if any other command is you find it useful, just mention it manually, and that becomes your audit manual, that is audit through the system side. Right. So please, you make use of this presentation in that context. I would say that I have done 10% of the work, 90% you need to carry out. So at least this is ready. You can now take it further. You can change it according to your test and the requirement. Right. Okay. So first part is done. Second part is also on the same line, whether the branch carries cash balance. So I will not be entering much into this one. This is also on the same line. Now let's discuss onto this part and where certain manipulation is happening. Now, cases wherein the bank would have an account with an SBI or an RBI or some other bank, we need to be very vigilant in terms of review of those accounts and the monitoring of that account. I'll tell you what can happen or what can go wrong. Let's first understand what is the requirement of an LFAR. It says that under point number 2A, were balance confirmation certificates obtained in respect of an outstanding balances at the year end and whether the aforesaid balance have been reconciled, the nature and extent of difference should be reported. Now it says that you only need to reconcile. It only says that you need to have the balance confirmation certificates available. The point is this: don't limit yourself to this balance confirmation certificate. I would say that have your audit process to include review of transactions. So you have an account statement available from the other bank where the account is maintained, and you have an account statement here. The account which is maintained by our bank as a replica of the other bank account is known as mirror account. Now, these mirror accounts are very important in terms of control. Reason being, there is completely a manual control over this mirror account. System will not have any control over mirror account. Let's take an example that a mirror account got debited for 5 lakh and a CC account got credited with 5 lakh. And after some days, the same thing as, let's say 3rd of March, a mirror account got debited with 5 lakh. And the CC account got credited. On 5th of March, CC account got debited with 5 lakh and credit was to the mirror account. As on 31st of March, there is no difference between the bank balance and we only go by the confirmation certificates obtained. In that scenario, what will happen is this, that this confirmation certificate will not show that there are certain set of transactions which are appearing in your mirror account but not have been recorded by the other bank. So deploy a person or a specific set of people to verify in few of the cases, if there are large number of transactions, to cross-check whether all the transactions recorded in my mirror account is appearing in the other bank account or not. If you find any of such cases where only in our account the transactions are happening, then identify and mark those accounts. Right? So that is first part. Second part is that it may so happen, in one of the case I observed it that way, that the branch officials were misusing the balance, actual balance of the bank available with the other bank for some of the days. And they'll always ensure that the balance is nullified or balance is perfectly reconciling at the month end. So they had an access to the checkbook of that particular account, and they used to withdraw the balance from that without even entering that part into this the bank's mirror account, and they used to manipulate the funds. So either of the sides should not happen, and that is the reason we need to go through the ledgers as well. So balance is one way, and the second part is that we need to do it through the ledger inquiry as well, right? So please review that. Now let's focus on to TCS banks for this. Now, in case of Finacle any type of account, you need only one command, that is ACLI or HACLI. Whereas in TCS banks, there are three setups. One is deposit ODCC setup. Other one is the TLDL, that is term loan or a demand loan setup. And the third one is the BGL setup, that is the branch accounting setup. Right now, what happens is that this account, that's mirror account, is actually a GL account. So we need to access it through branch accounting journal, inquiry, and transactions. Right. Okay. Then comes the important one, that is 10% and 10 crores, whichever is less. Now understand the LFAR structure, the questions, the requirements, and the reporting. There is a huge difference between this in this particular point when we compare it with the previous LFAR. Now this LFAR says that 10% of outstanding or aggregate balance of fund base as well as non-fund base. Very important one. Till now, or till that before 2 years, what we used to do, we only focus for some reason or the other, and the principles, those chartered accountants are there, they are all aware, our fascination with the fund based amount only. However, under this LFAR, we need to check fund based as well as non-fund based. So your audit will start with that accessing of information, that let's say you have 500 crore as fund base and 300 crores at non-fund base. So the total it up, it comes to 800 crores. 800 crores, 10% comes to 80 crores or 10 crore, whichever is less. So in that scenario, it will become as 10 crore as the base value. Now, for that, the second part is that you need to identify the customer who has limit in excess of 10 crore as an outstanding under fund base as well as non-fund base. Now, in case of a large advances, you need to carry out complete review of this. It is termed in LFAR amendment as transaction detailing. So once you have carried out this transaction detailing for all, you need to mention all the ledgers, all the accounts verified, including large account advances, into the LFAR. That these are the accounts that we verified, and the system will automatically compute the percentage of verification vis-a-vis this one. RBI has not stated that this is the percentage of verification that we need to carry out. It is the sampling technique that we need to use. Random sampling has already been dispensed with way back by institute. So you need to ensure that there is a proper adequate coverage of all type of accounts and all segment of account, and considering all exception as well. So based on that, you can devise your sampling plan. Anything that you do, please record it at least in an Excel, that this is my sampling plan. And based on this sampling plan, I have got these many accounts, and these many accounts I have verified. And what you have verified in those accounts, that you need to carry out. Now, the important point is this, that you don't have a specific report available, which I can term it as a common report available in all this aspect, this all entire aspect. So I have given you the checkpoint, and I mentioned that there is no point, or there is no menu code available directly for with where you can generate a single report with all this detail. If the bank has generated this report based on the LFAR requirement, that would be the great help for all of us as an auditor. If it is not generated, then we need to we will always have advance sheet or an advances complete report available, because we also need to sign that. Along with that, you also need to process it for LC report, outstanding BG report, and you need to sort it on a cost ID wise, and then you need to aggregate at the cost ID level to ascertain 10% and 10 crore. It's a long process before even initiating an audit, right? So ensure that you have adequate staff as well as time available. I'm aware of that time is always short for bank audit. This time we'll be getting only maximum of 2 branches whosoever is empaneled and are already on panel, right? But at least you need to give sufficient time, you need to plan accordingly, and you need to execute accordingly. Okay, then comes the credit appraisal, renewal of limit and enhancement of limits. Now, renewal of limit. Now here I want to stop for a moment, and I would like to share my view on a point. Many of the time what happens that we tend to get a lot of schooling, or rather a lot of suggestion by branch officials that अरे sir LFAR में लिख दो ना चलेगा, main audit report में क्यों लिखना है, right? Why do you want to give MOC? You have reported somewhere, right? You only want to report. Many of the time we also find the credence to this kind of statements, but please don't do this kind of thing. Otherwise you will be the person who will be preparing your coffin and even putting a nail onto your coffin as well. I'll tell you the reason for it as well. The consolidation of LFAR happens on the 30th of June. That is way after this financial statements get closed. Now, if you have not given MOC, it won't feature into your financial statement. That is the bank's financial statement. So what will happen is that will not be considered at all. Rather, and that is precisely the reason, if you read the LFAR, RBI has categorically mentioned that whether do you agree with the branch classification, and if not, have you issued MOC for the same or not. It is not a replacement for a main audit report, so please don't use it in that context. Now let's come on to this part. In a lot of cases we have observed that we report that way that the financial statements have not been obtained from the borrower since last 2 years. Now refer to the IRACP provision, where it is mentioned that the maximum time period available for the renewal of limit is 180 days from the closure, that is the expiry of the expiry date. So bank may do short review or kind of thing, but that's the only thing that the bank can do within 180 days, not more than that. Now what happens that if we have reported such kind of thing where we ourselves are saying that since last 2 years the financial statements are not there, and if we see into the system, date of renewal is updated. Now how the renewal has taken place when the financial statements are not there. So our issue will also come into the renewal side, the quality of renewal. Second thing is that if the renewal has not taken place, only the system manipulation has happened, then it requires auditor to report on manipulation as well as on its impact on IRACP as well. So I would say that don't only limit yourself to your one observation. See to it that it has a logical conclusion, or all related aspects are touched upon as well. I don't want to say that all the related aspects will end at the NPA, but we need to ensure that that is also handled. So the renewal of limit goes with the review of masters, whereas the enhancement of limit requires review of history, right? So let's first understand. Now ACI, ACM is for masters. Same way deposit CCOD, DLTL, that is you need to go through the inquiry option. And FlexCube is there on the masters as well. Now this is on a limit history, very important one. In the beginning, I have stated that you need to prepare an Excel file with all required master verification. Once you have all this plotted into as a template is prepared, once the template is prepared, jot down all these things. From where you will get an information? You will get an information from this command ACLHM. Very important command and very good command, account limit history maintenance. Now this gives you an history of changes in the limits. Right now you need to but it's an only account specific command, so you need to put an account, you need to put a sanction. So you will find it on screen, and thereafter the DP, and you will find it on the screen. The same way you can go to the TCS banks, go to the limit history under interest rate history. So deposit OTCC inquiries interest rate history, under which you will find limit history or a DP history, right? Find out that and plot it into an Excel sheet. Check the actual documents, and compare it whether all these changes are supported with the documentary evidence or not. In case of a changes in DP, you will find that there are a lot of entries into DP change because the changes are due to submission of stock statements, right? So each submission of stock statement, book debt statement will have a renewal of DP limit therein, right? So this is where the limit comes into play. Then comes the quick mortality, that is NPA within 12 months. Again, it goes on a master verification. I will not be touching upon much because otherwise I think next on 31st of March, you have session on LFAR part as well. So I am keeping that part. I am only touching upon the system part now. Correctness of interest rate fed into the system. Now, this is the point that I have referred to. Ensure that the rate is properly fed into the system, the parameters are properly fed into the system. There are multiple ways that you can check this one, and here I'll explain you certain important aspect of system. Master is in any case there. Then comes the table master. INTTM is a command in Finacle which gives you the interest table master maintenance. If INTTM is not working, you can use command called INTTI. That is interest table master inquiry. Now, let's compare Finacle with TCS banks here. Deposit ODCC interest rate history, DLTL account services and interest rate history. Both places you have the interest rate history available. Now, under TCS banks, you will find the changes in interest rate. Change may be due to change in the master or the value of the master, meaning thereby, in case my loan is MCLR plus 3%, effective rate comes to 9%. Now MCLR got changed from 6% to 7%, meaning thereby my rate is now changed to 9 to 10%. Under TCS Bank's environment, you will find 9% change as well as 10% change as well. Whereas when you refer to INTTI and Finacle, it will only show you that interest table master selected is MCLR plus 3%. It won't show you the change in the value of interest rate under INTTI. Fair enough. However, if I have changed interest table master from MCLR plus 3% to MCLR plus 2.5%, it will appear under the interest table master maintenance. Why this is important this time? Because there are a lot of changes in the interest rate this year. And we need to ensure that we don't end up giving an absolute assurance for the case where we have not carried out certain verification side. Fair enough. So this is what the point that I wanted to discuss. Now this is the periodical review of interest rate linked to MCLR or an EBLR. Again, it goes with this one. There is one more report that is available under system is AINT RPT in Finacle and HAINT RPT in Finacle 10, and TCS banks you have a product sheet for detailed computation of interest. Now let's understand how to make use of this report. This is an excellent report format, an excellent command. You can generate interest for any type of account, including NP account, including penal interest, excluding penal interest, whichever way you would like to have. AINT RPT, once you generate a report, it gives you day-wise interest computation. Now in the day-wise, you will have the rate of interest, that is the actual rate of interest at which the interest is computed. So when you have a sanction letter in hand, where sanction letter specifically says that MCLR plus 3% and MCLR so and so from this date to this date, this date to this date is so and so, you can ascertain also that the rate should be this much, and what is the rate that is appearing into the system, that you can check. Now in case there is an impact of preferences, account preferences or the customer preferences, you can identify from this as well, this AINT RPT, right? So you can use this command or the report accordingly. I forgot to tell you one part here, that I'll not be sharing any of the screenshots of any system, because that is a license to all the providers. So I don't want to enter into the legal hassle of this one. My perspective is to enable you, to prepare you, so when you go and hit the system, you find that something which is useful to you or something is available to you, right? By doing so, or I'm doing so, I don't want to take a route where I will be exposed to any of the legal SL or the host of this program enter into this kind of thing, and that is the reason I don't share any of the screenshots. Then comes frequent renewal and rollover. Now here comes and command an excellent command tree lookup. When we discuss this limit concept, right, this entire limit is available on screen at one place. That what is the sanction limit, what is the actual utilization right now, and what is available balance under a particular limit in one screen, that is available in LTL. But there is a limitation of LTL. LTL is a real-time information. So you cannot say that on 23rd of March, what was the limit? So for that, you cannot use LTL. For that, you need to use ACL HM for each account by account, right? However, you can go and check node level inquiry through LNDI command in Finacle. In TCS banks, we need to go through the account and services and inquiry in account, that is on master. But in TCS banks, what happens that you get message detail into the statement as well. That is, whatever is the statement, it mentions that there is a change in the limit or an interest rate here, right? So that also is available therein. And in FlexCube, you can go to the CHM07 for OD limit master maintenance and CH409 for OD limit history report. Correctness of credit rating fed into the system, whether the rating is obtained and properly updated. Loan for buyback of shares by companies. Now, there is no command as such available into this one. This is a very dangerous point actually. But we'll not need to go through one of the process that I mentioned. It is again not a cent% process, but at least some solace or some benefit is available through that. Then comes the advances against lien of deposits, lien maintenance, that is ALM. Ensure that each FD, whenever you verify that any FD is obtained for any of the facility, whether lien is marked into the system or not, ALM will give you in Finacle the lien maintenance details. Banks will have a security summary, and FlexCube as a lien master. Now, as an ideal process, I'm just sharing. Now it depends on you. What you can do is you can take a snapshot of that when I verified the lien was there. It may so happen that we may not be in a position to access logs. Now, at some point of time, if something has happened, right, whether the lien was marked and if the log is not available, log would be available in system, but probably not accessible to us, or we are not privy to the log, then it may create a problem for us. So as a working paper, we can say that, yes, we have checked this part as well. Now, it depends on how we would like to have it. Stock and book date statement and DP computation. I would suggest when you have a session with Khanna sir in later part in the I think 31st of March, you do discuss this DP computation part. He'll provide a holistic view on a DP computation part, how to compute paid stock, and that. From a system side, we need to see to it whether register or the security details have been properly updated into the system or not. In case of a Finacle 7, ideally the bank would be using SRM, that is security register maintenance. However, many of the banks have discontinued SRM and they have shifted to HSCLM. Now with our login, we may not be in a position to access HCLM. So in that scenario, we may use CLL, which is a replica of HCLM. Right. In Finacle 10, it's in HSCLM, only one command is there. In TCS banks, we have a security summary available. In FlexCube, there are two excellent commands available. That is collateral to account and account to collateral. So you can find both. If you have any collateral detail available, you can find out against which account it was it is tagged with, and account how many collaterals are tagged with. Right. So either side, it's available. Deterioration in value of security, same security register type of commands. Frequent and unauthorized overdrawing. Friends, please pay attention to this. These aspects. lot of members tend to give absolute assurance into LFAR, or rather in the main audit report or in any of the report. The point is that many of the time we have not even carried out that work. Now, for frequent unauthorized overdrawing, we ask only the branch that what have you given TOD to anyone? If so, provide us the details. So they'll produce us a register where only 2 entries are appearing. So we mentioned that no, only 2 entry in a year, there is no overdue, no overdrafts, temporary overdrafts are there. But I would suggest that you generate a report through TOD RP in Finacle. TCS banks, you can go to the limit history. Again, there is no such equivalent command available in banks or FlexCube per se. FlexCube does provide some basic reporting, but not like TOD RP, and TCS bank is not having that much front end report available. Through back end or through the use of daily report, we can search it out, but that is a long process that we need to carry out. Once you generate TOD report, why I am saying that TOD is important, because there have been multiple reasons that either someone is frequently using TOD and that is what you need to mention, but a lot of cases we have observed that borrowers take TOD and with the proceeds of TOD they repay the loan. So it's actually a case of taking a new loan or a fresh loan for repayment of an existing loan, which is not at all permitted as per IRACP. Right, so ensure that you verify that aspect as well into this one for those sticky advances, from where the funds are coming into and what is the source. That source also you need to verify. Now, this is the most dangerous point I find, and we all have given in past absolute assurance, and that was the stepping stone for the RBI to come up with this 6th of March guideline. One of the point rather. RBI has stated this one that all the auditors, including statutory auditors, have given their certificate or a confirmation that everything is automized. Since the bank has also stated that, because RBI has given a circular in 2020, RBI is actually after banks since 2012, I suppose. But after 10 years, once again, there was a circular that was issued by RBI that automation should be there. And banks have mentioned that way that everything is automized, and we echoed that sentiment as well. The problem is that read the sentence first, what's the requirement and whether we have given a correct assurance or not. If we have carried out work and correct assurance, that's not a problem. But if we have not carried out work, then we need to see to it that we carry out work in this proper context. I don't want to doubt, or I don't want to say anyone that we are not doing properly or that way, but whether we have sufficient material or documentation available that we have carried out the work. Let's first read this one. As the branch identified and classified advances into standard, substandard, doubtful loss through the computer system without manual intervention, is this identification and classifying is in line with the norms prescribed by Reserve Bank of India? Now, just understand how many banks have agriculture advance automized into their system, where identification of NPA for agriculture advances, where the crop details have been entered into, and the essay based on SLBC guidelines, the crop pattern, short term or a long term, is determined, and with that you have an additional benefit available in case of any natural calamity. Everything synced into this one, and the system automatically identifies this account as NPA. There are hardly any, or rather none. So can we say that there is no manual intervention into the system? No. So see, first we need to understand how many conditions are there when an account can be downgraded or an upgraded or can be identified. So for that, I request every one of you to carry out an exercise first. Dissect this latest master circular on IRACP into 4 parts: identification, classifications, provisioning, and income recognition. So what happens is that this dissection of the circular on a para by para basis, you copy it in a respective worksheet with a reference of a para number and a page number, and then check all the conditions, whether for all these conditions the system is set up wherein it can operate without manual intervention. If you find the answer affirmative with all the documents that you are having, then report it. It may require sandbox testing as well, meaning thereby you need to test it on dummy database. Do we get access to as a branch auditor? Sadly, no. Do we have the deployment document wherein it is stated that for this particular condition or para number, this condition is deployed into the system through these logic or this logic or this condition? No. So if we don't get this kind of thing or we don't access that one, right, what we are left with is the available data and the behavior of a system given the available data. So we need to bring this fact into the reporting as well. We simply cannot say that yes, everything is in order, or we cannot simply say that no, everything is not in order, some issue are there. No, you cannot do it in that way. You need to properly draft your responses to the specific observation, specific requirement of an LFAR. Now, these are few of the manual intervention that may impact onto the identification of NPA or the masters, which may have a probable impact. And it also has customer master and account master impact as well. Not only this, now we need to provide our opinion or assurance onto the SMA 0, 1 and 2 account as well. We have observed that in few of the banks, their SMA conditions are not sieved into the CBS. Instead, what the bank does is they generate the report on daily basis at night. Once this EOD process is done, then the reporting system will assign SMA 0, 1 and 2 tag into the reporting system, not into the CBS. And then they finally have a report available with us, made available with us. This is not a correct practice. Whatever is required to be carried out, it is required to be carried out from the system itself. Otherwise, there will be a multiple systems where integration issue would be there and manual intervention would also be there. So just check into this bank system where SMA 1, 0, 1 and 2 tagging is happening, and you can mention this one. Now, these are few of the items which may be important for us to understand that there may be some account where the account might have some issues with turning into NPA. So these events I have plotted it. Restructure defacement, it requires master verification. Upgradation of non-performing advances, you cannot upgrade an account from NPA to PA unless entire overdue is recovered from a borrower, meaning thereby all accounts should be in positive, no overdue should be there, right? So that's the point. Appropriation of recovery in principal and interest. Now, these all points are customer master and account master related. So I've just given the system related aspects therein and not repeated this one. LC devolved and guarantee invoked. Now, these are the commands. I don't have command for TCS banks for LC and a BG. I've been informed that it is through trade finance menu, but I haven't had a chance to use that part. So I have not mentioned that into TCS banks. But the other reports I have already included into this one. Now, this is what the interchangeability between fund-based and non-fund based we discussed when we discussed with an this concept of limit. Now, this is on pointing type and self-reconciling account, that is expeditious clearance of suspense account entries, outstanding and delayed reversal. Now, I just want your attention to this part. Cash payment from office account. These are all the events that happens very normally with office accounts. Now, we need to ensure that we need to go through office account review, and then we need to ensure that we have gone through all these aspects, right? See this one. And then the commands that are available are these. ACLI for, let's say, account ledger inquiry. From system, how many entries are outstanding? If you want to see, you can go through IoT, or MSG or IRP is the command for a reporting, right? And likewise, other systems. Dormant account, I am not going. I think I will have some Q&A as well. FCNRB. Now, this is a dangerous point, actually. Dangerous in terms of, I would say that this LFAR is beautifully drafted in the sense that it covers a lot of important aspects, and it ensures that the user, the auditor, unless and until he or she works, not be able to report if they are not work properly, not be able to report it a proper context. Now, this is one of the aspect. The customer is an NRI when he has opened an FCNRB deposit. However, after some years, he comes back to India, and now, as per FEMA guideline, the customer is not an NRI. However, the FCNR which was opened earlier under an auto renewal mode is getting auto renewed. Now, what happens is that if it is getting auto renewed, the system will not check the customer's FEMA status, which is very important one. And in that context, RBI has now added this part. Yeah, added this particular part, and that is what we need to be looking into this particular aspect. Now, this is again on bills payable office accounts. Yeah, test checking of interest, discount, commission, and fees. There is an excellent command in Finacle 10 for this, that is HINT-PRF. Do try if you are working or you happen to be into the bank where Finacle 10 is there. HINT-PRF is an excellent command, even excellent than AINT-RPT as well. So just try it out, this part. Adherence to income recognition norm. Now, there are two, in few of the systems, we have observed some of the anomaly in the system itself. It may so happen that way that this anomaly may take this entire bank down in terms of certain RBI prescription. I'll share one of the anomaly that that is observed is this, that what happens, let's say an EMI is getting due on 10th of the month. The borrower has repaid that or paid that EMI on 18th of the month. So for 8 days, this there was a delay in making repayment. Now, for 8 days, the system will charge additional interest, additional to what is there into this amortization chart. Now, in few of the systems where the problem lies is this, that they consider this additional interest at the fag end, at the last end. That is when this all the loans, that is all the EMIs would be over. At that point of time, they will put it into that place, and then they'll recover. Now, that is nothing but a ballooning, and it is actually classified as restructuring. So the amount gets due immediately on 18th, because on 18th there is an additional interest that gets that is computed and due. And if that additional interest is not paid or not recovered from the customer, and for 90 days, that account will turn into NPA. So please see to it that how this additional interest is getting recorded into this one. Secondly, you also need to mention few points back. There was a point that how apportionment of recovery happens into the system. So you need to see it from that perspective as well. Do check this point. If that happens, then almost all loans, affected loans, will become restructured. And if it becomes restructured, it goes into an NPA side. And that's a systematic failure that can happen there. Security stationery. Yep. Thanks to Nirav Modi, we have this point, integration of software with CBS. We have a lot of software is in the bank. In particular, in case of Nirav Modi, there was a case where the SWIFT system was not connected with the CBS. Hence, the confirmations or the liabilities that were updated into the CBS were not acknowledged or not recorded in the books of accounts. It's an onerous responsibility to the auditors that whether all the systems have been integrated with the CBS or not. You first need to ascertain how many systems are there. Then you need to see to it that how the same are interconnected. So you'll require a detailed deployment document as well. Now, how much we can go into this one, we need to see to it first. So based on the available information, draft it accordingly. Don't give an absolute assurance in any of such cases. Otherwise, it will have a problem. Procedure for manual intervention to the system generated data and availability of audit trails. Now, this is what RBI is asking for. Ask the bank, what is your policy for manual intervention to system generated data and availability of audit trails? How do you keep track of? Right. I haven't seen any bank to share this kind of thing. They only say that we don't change. But then we have observed a lot of instances wherein they may not change directly the system generated data, but they make system to work in a way that it vitiates the entire factual position. So what I have done is on a data integrity side, I have included these possible events. Now, these are the possible events that you should be looking into, that if these events are there, there might be some issue with the data integrity. And this is also a dangerous point, whether the branch has proper system and procedure to ensure data integrity relating to all the inputs which are used at the corporate office level and for the supervisory reporting purpose. Have you come across any instance where data integrity was compromised? Just imagine you need to report that branch has proper system and procedure available to say that the data integrity is in place, which may impact some report which you are even not aware of at corporate office level, or some supervisory reporting, meaning thereby what you need is you need to have all kind of controls testing, that have you observed any of such events or not where data manipulation has happened, incorrect data feed happened, manual intervention has happened. Now all these parts are required to be reported here. So if you happen to find out any of such possible event, report into this as well. If you find out that if someone had manipulated with the masters, report it. Please don't give absolute assurance where you are not aware of. I'll give you a classic example, and that's the last point in this slide as well. When we were, I was with one of the center statutory auditor, we asked the bank casually that you said at that point of time this was not mandatory day-end procedure for NPA, but bank on its own they have included this part. So we asked the bank that I want a log that on how many days that NPA script which is required to be run in the day end did not execute, or you made sure that the script should not run on specific day. And you won't believe, we found a lot of cases that initially they said that on all Sundays we have blocked it. So we said where it is mentioned in IRACP circular that Sunday there is no overdue. In few of the cases we have observed that on a peculiar day the script was not functioning. Now that raises an suspicion as well at certain point of time. Now you believe that from a branch level that everything is working perfectly in order, but are you aware of that whether on all days NPA script was executed? So for that specific reason, I want every one of you to ask and get a confirmation in writing from the branch staff. They will not be in a position to give, so mention that way, that obtain a confirmation from an system team that all 365 days during our entire year there was not a single day where NPA script did not run. If that has happened, then some manual intervention would have happened. Report it here itself, but at least ask, then they'll be in a position to understand that these are the things as well that can go wrong. Right now there comes the forex branches. I will not touch upon much onto this one. Now any questions, sir? I have deliberated what I wanted to have.
अगर कोई क्वेश्चन है तो आप काइंडली हैंड रेज कर सकते हैं, तो हम आपको अनम्यूट कर देंगे.
I think सर थोड़े है चैट में, वन बाय वन करके लेते हैं. एक चैट में है, could you once again show the CBS code for bank guarantee? Mridul Mogla ji has a question. Let me go.
मृदुल जी आपको वो दे देंगे, आपको पीपीटी आ जाएगी.
I'll share the PPT as well, so that's not a problem. Yeah, I need to go probably much back.
Sir, I have a query.
Yeah, just a minute, sir.
ये पीपीटी दे देंगे जी, कमांड्स वहां से चेक कर लेंगे. Not an
Yeah,
issue.
yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, this is on screen. You can jot it down. Till that time, let's have a query. I think someone was online.
Sir, I have a query regarding Pinnacle.
Yeah, sir.
So what is the actual difference between ALM and SRM commands? Because at times lien has not been marked through ALM command, and
Yeah.
but the bank staff shows that SRM has been done.
Okay.
So what's the factual status for that?
Yeah. See, whether ALM used or not, or SRM used or not, that is only a front end. This one, I'll explain you how this happened. In case of a user defined lien, that is, let's say you say that ये account के ऊपर 50,000 का lien लगा दो, right? Because of some reason or other, you can use ALM. SRM is a module which is an composite module, where based on SRM you get the limit as well, right? Meaning thereby, if you apply or if you take that particular FD on an SRM, you can get a limit into an OD account. So SRM is used from that perspective. But at the end of the day, what system will do is system will apply lien only, but it will be a system generated lien, not the user lien. So lien won't be there. It will be a system generated lien. But if you want to satisfy yourself, what you can do is you can go to the master of that term deposit, right? Into that master available limit, you can check. If something is carved out or something is blocked, that means that is blocked, right?
Perfect.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question, or shall I take Q&A?
Q&A ले लीजिए sir.
Yeah, Q&A. Yeah, Rajji has a question: how to draw sample? Sir, if you read LFAR, there are plenty of things that you need to you can get as an idea that this is how the sample is required to be taken. I'll give you a few of the instances. First, 10% in 10 crore, that is there. Second, stock audit is required to be carried out and not carried out, or carried out where the negative confirmation is there, negative adverse observations are there and not reported. So that's you need to identify those accounts as well. Credit rating is required to be obtained and not obtained. Top 5 standard accounts. Then comes 10 crore and above, where account got upgraded or downgraded. You need to give a reason to it as well. Compromised loss accounts more than 50 lakh. You need to report it there as well. Now, these are the ones which are mandatory samples. Right? Now comes the other part. Now, to draw a sample, what I would suggest is that ensure that the sample is drawn from all the segments, that is all type of accounts, at least 1 or 2 based on your that particular profile. There is no one standard fitting with everyone. But the earlier part that I have stated, that also contains. So just read the LFAR. You will find a lot of things that LFAR itself says that to give detail, quick mortality cases. Right. So have that sample first, and then ascertain that which are the other products also left out, or which are the other samples that I should be drawing, because to have all a proper picture of all this advances portfolio of the branch. Bank don't allow to take screenshots, then fair enough, sir. Just make a mention of that. You have verified. If there is any transaction ID or anything is appearing, you can mention that this lien was marked with so and so this one, right? Or any updations are there, you can mention that as well. Anuj ji has a question. Hello sir, thanks for wonderful session knowledge. Please explain whether there is a rule of T plus 1 day provisioning in agri advances, because in North maximum agri advance regulars by doing same day transaction of deposit and withdrawal. Yeah. Sir, that is a perennial issue that is going on, not in North but everywhere rather, what I have observed and members have told me. In case of an agri advance regularized at same day transaction, there is no as such. I am not aware about any of the specific rule of T plus 1. But if there are documents available to that count where it says that this customer has deposited some amount, the document is also there, and customer has withdrawn amount as well with his signatures are also there, then I think we cannot do anything into that count, though we have good sense of this one that probably something fishy is going on. Raj ji has a question.
नहीं, उनका तो सर PPT related है.
Okay. Yep. Done.
Last.
Neha ji has a question, sir. Can an FD be taken as deposit for two loan if the amount, if loan amount total is more than FD amount? FD can be taken in two loan. That's not a problem. Problem is that if it only, if the loan is backed by only FD, then there will be a problem because there will be a shortfall. Otherwise, security can be assigned to multiple this one. System has that benefit available that it will assign or it will give a security to that account to the extent aggregate of this total to the fixed deposit amount only. So security can be placed in a common as well as in a multiple linkages as well. Generally bank would not be doing this one because it may create a lot of problem in operational side. Otherwise, on a technical side, that is possible. One to many, many to one is possible. Gaganji has a question. Please elaborate diversion of fund in case of KCC. Diversion of fund is nothing but utilization of fund for the purpose other than for which the funds have been utilized. Now, for let's say for KCC, not even for KCC, rather everything. When you find that there is a loan, the loan is not, there is a withdrawal that is happening into the loan. The amount that is getting debited or the transaction that is getting debited, whether the same is getting debited for the purpose for which the loan is taken. If it cannot be ascertained, then you need to seek for document as well from where he has made payment of. Then only you will be in a position to understand that there is an diversion of fund or the funds are getting utilized for the purpose for which the loan is taken. Now, in case of a KCC, let's say you find that immediately after getting a loan, the check is going into, let's say, some vehicle, this one, dealership. Now, the vehicle dealership is not a tractor selling this one or a farm equipment selling this one, right? But it is for a commercial car. Now, in that scenario, what will happen is that is a diversion, or let's say that is also near to this one. I would say that it is going into a real estate company. Now, this is all sort of diversion. The problem that will arise is that in case the cash withdrawal is there. Now, if cash withdrawal is there, you need to ask for the agree document, that is the land holding, and the other document that they may have, right, just to ascertain, so that at least some set of documents are there and we have reviewed it. Otherwise, it is endless. We may not be in a position to exactly identify that one. Neha SG has a question, sir. Have these commands included in PPT? Whatever you have seen, you will get it. Rather, not only that, you will get a lot more than this into the background material. It is 214 page probably background material. It's a very comprehensive document. Where one page contains 2 slides. So you can imagine that it's a huge document I have prepared. So that probably all eventuality or everything that is I have included therein. Vikas Gupta ji has raised hand, sir.
सर मेरे ख्याल में ऑलरेडी आप भी लेट हो रहे हैं, तो
संजय
भाई हैं। संजय भाई आप जुड़े हुए हो तो 1-2 मिनट आपके करा लें सर। संजय जी, हाँ, थैंक यू संजय जी।
सर नमस्कार।
सेंट्रल काउंसिल मेंबर हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं। हालांकि मैं उसके पहले थैंक्स भी कर दूं कि आज संख्या बड़ी अच्छी थी, लगभग 150 पर्सन ऑन जूम एज वेल एज यूट्यूब दोनों पे अटेंडी थे। तो मैं संजय जी को कहूंगा, हालांकि हमारी वोटें काफी निकल गई हैं, चलो फिर भी दो शब्द कहे।
अश्विनी जी, जो बात डायरेक्ट इनडायरेक्ट करनी होती है उसका आपको कोई मुकाबला नहीं है। आई वंस वेलकम all viewers and Kuntal Shah as a annual virtual for us that we tried to explain the insight on the software by the none other than Kuntal Shah ji. And I think the way I was, though I don't do much of the audits, but the way the same are being explained, I think you have nothing to beat and the member will be benefited much with this. So these are the few things, and I always say that if the speaker can see all and address all the queries, then I think there is nothing we can say best we can do for our participants. Sir, we are not providing any CP. Our still the presence in our programs are much higher than any other program. I will say to all my viewers that do write to us, do share your concern if you want to see that we should continue to improve, and also what program you wanted to organize in the coming future. The rest of the things Ashwani ji is handling from time to time. As you must be knowing that Dr. Girish Ahuja is going to come on 1st April. The time will be announced by Ashwani ji. And today also we have covered, I think, adequately. So with this few words, I wish everyone all the best, and thanks to Kuntal ji for giving his valuable time. Thank you, Ashwani ji.
थैंक यू संजय जी। मैंने ऑलरेडी स्टार्टिंग में इन्फॉर्म किया था कि 2 प्रोग्राम कुंतल जी ने बिल्कुल डिटेल में बताया, इनकी पीपीटी भी, और इन्होंने जो बैकग्राउंड मटेरियल शेयर किया है, मैं एक बार तो शेयर कर चुका हूं गूगल ड्राइव लिंक। अब इनकी जो पीपीटी आएगी उसको भी गूगल ड्राइव में रख के दोबारा आपको शेयर कर दूंगा, आप वहां से डाउनलोड कर सकेंगे। इनकी जितनी भी पीपीटी भी यूट्यूब लिंक भी कर दूंगा वहां पे शेयर उसमें गूगल ड्राइव में, और उसको सेपरेटली भी शेयर कर दूंगा ताकि आप इसको भी व्यू कर सकें। 31 को हमने जो टाइम अब अनाउंस कर दिया है वासुदेवा जी का 5 to 7, वासुदेवा जी और अजय ढींगरा जी और MM खन्ना जी, 3 फैकल्टीज उस दिन हमारे साथ जुड़ेंगी, जो आपको बैंक ऑडिट में जो सर्कुलर्स हैं, LFAR को कैसे भरना है, सर्कुलर्स को कैसे रीड करना है, वो वट एवर इट इज एडवांसेस के रिलेटेड स्पेसिफिकली वो सारी चीजें आपको बताएंगी। ये आपको जो कुंतल जी ने आज बताया वो है प्रैक्टिकली कैसे ऑडिट करना है सीबीएस के एनवायरनमेंट में। आपने जाके आप जो सर्कुलर के रिलेटेड जो चीजें हैं कि कैसे आपने एनपीए बनाना है, उसमें कैसे मतलब आपने डे टू डे एनपीए, जब आप नया कंसेप्ट आ गया कि एक बार एनपीए बन गया, बाद में 2 किस्तें टूट रही हैं, इट विल कंटिन्यू टू बी एनपीए, ये सभी डिटेल्स इंटीग्रिटीज वो आपको हमारी आने वाली फैकल्टीज बताएंगी। और जैसे संजय जी ने बताया, गिरीश जी का भी मैं अनाउंस कर चुका हूं कि 1 अप्रैल का उसका टाइम भी 5 to 7 है, तो ये दोनों प्रोग्राम 5 to 7 है फॉर द टाइमिंग। फिर भी मैं आज इनके लिंक बना के आपको दोनों प्रोग्राम इकट्ठे ही शेयर करूंगा। तो विद दिस वर्ड थैंक यू वेरी मच, आप लोग हमारे साथ जुड़े, और कुंतल भाई का भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कि इन्होंने अपना बिजी शेड्यूल से टाइम निकाला। हालांकि इनकी तबीयत भी आज सेट नहीं थी, लेकिन मोदी जी की तरह इन्होंने बहुत तबीयतें सेट कर दी हैं जैसे उन्होंने कर दी हैं, तो ये अहमदाबाद वाले हमारे पूरा एंड सेट कर देंगे। अब हम जाके इनसे सुनने के बाद बैंक ऑडिट में उनको दुरुस्त कर देंगे कि कैसे ऑडिट होता है। तो विद दिस वर्ड थैंक यू वेरी मच कुंतल भाई फॉर स्पेयरिंग द वैल्यूएबल टाइम। थैंक यू ऑल द पैनलिस्ट एज वेल एज अटेंडीज फॉर अटेंडिंग द प्रोग्राम। ऑल्दो वी नो कि 31 के कारण सभी बिजी हैं, सभी एंट्रियां घुमाने में बिजी हैं कि जी कोई रह ना जाए क्लाइंट की, कोई खर्चा ना छूट जाए, क्योंकि जो पेमेंट बेसिस एक्सपेंसेस हैं वो आपको पे करने ही पड़ेंगे। तो इवन दो आप लोगों ने टाइम निकाला, थैंक यू वेरी मच।